Hey everyone, it's Joe Cresci here with another episode of RevOps 500. I can't tell you how stoked, jacked, pumped I am to be here. I've got the chief evangelist of Hapily on the line. His name is Max Cohen, otherwise known as Maximilian Maximus Cohen. I'm sure is what all his fans call him, anyways. Max Cohen, welcome to RevOps 500, sir.
Dude, thank you for having me. Yeah, I wish I got a cool version of the name Max, like Maximilian Maximus or the Maximum or whatever. But on my birth certificate, it's just Max. I didn't even get Maxwell. I
Max.
didn't get any good version of it. I got just the base model Max, and
But you
it's the
got
worst.
but you got the evergreen initials of MC.
That's
So
true. That's true. Yeah, I'll take it.
take it, right.
Yeah.
So take this question for me, Max. What is your biggest mistake?
Dude, when we originally talked about the prep, I had a HubSpot mistake
All
in
right.
my head because that's kind of what I thought the angle was that we're going for. But now I'm almost wondering what's my biggest mistake in life, and I could probably talk about that forever. But I promised I'd tell you a story, and I think it's kind of
All
like a
right. The
funny
world is
one.
your oyster. You're the star of the show here. You're
Yeah,
the
my
it's,
little my best mistake that I remember. So growing up at HubSpot, I was doing onboarding, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that was back when it was just like the marketing hub, and we weren't really like diving too deep into the CRM and stuff like that. But like a big thing that we would commonly do is get people's like websites like set up on HubSpot, and like usually it was like pretty low stakes, right? Because back then the meta very much was the WordPress website, HubSpot marketing hub for your landing pages, and it was like a
The
match made in heaven.
migrations team.
Yeah,
Yep, absolutely.
yeah,
Yep, all that
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the free templates set up and like those were the days, dude. That was crazy. But every once in a while you'd get the odd like, oh, we're completely flipping our site over to HubSpot, right?
COS back then.
And yeah, that's COS, right?
Content
And like
optimization system. Yeah, I remember.
yeah, and like those were the people that they'd pay for like the whole website pullover. And like I remember we
Uh-huh.
did that. Like I forget now like how crazy that was that we would like rebuild people's entire website on HubSpot COS back in the day. Like no partner involved whatsoever.
Wow.
Which was wild because it also like cost like nothing compared to that type of dev work like third party, right? So
That's
it
right.
still blows my mind that we even did that. But they wanted to get people onto it and stuff like that. And I was working with this customer that I was really vibing with. She was super cool. She was like a marketing recruiter, and is pretty much like a one woman army. She was great.
Uh-huh.
And we were working kind of all throughout inbound to get her website migrated over from Wix. Brother, she was on
Oh.
Wix, right? She had one of those Wix sites, right?
Okay.
And this is like when kind of Wix had just came out, and it was very much like that quick and easy, like WYSIWYG, anyone could build a website editor type thing, right? But like the DNS was like handled like through them, and it was like a really kind of like weird thing or whatever. And it was funny because we'd kind of like taken all these like steps to make sure everything was going to go good. Like we had went and figured out like where the DNS like was living in there. We were gonna switch them over to go point to the HubSpot C names and all that kind of stuff, and meticulously spent weeks getting the website like tweaked and fixing all the little things they screwed up and all that kind of stuff. And it was like a really really big deal because she couldn't have her website go down for any amount of time. People always had to be able to communicate with her, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Because she was like a one person recruiter. And so we're having our call, and we go and we like flip the website over, right? The DNS like resolves, it's looking good. I'm like, refreshing on my end. Of course, we get like a 404 for like a second, but then it like comes back
propagates.
up, right?
Yeah.
And the new website comes back up. I go and check built with, and I'm like, oh, it's a HubSpot site, and we're like celebrating, and like she's like changing stuff in the COS, and it's showing up on HubSpot, and we're like so stoked. It's great. It's awesome. And then we get to the end, of the call, and we're like, oh, this is awesome, cool. And I was like, hey, I'll send you a email with a whole bunch of resources on like how to do it, like HubSpot Academy, all this kind of stuff. And so we hang up, right? And this is back when we were doing I didn't have like her phone number or anything, right? We were on I think we were on WebEx, or maybe we were just starting to use Zoom. I think we were on WebEx still.
WebEx. Those helped us on the WebEx. Yeah, you're talking 15, 16.
Yeah, exactly. We're on WebEx, right? And like the way you'd get on calls is like you email, you get the WebEx link, you join.
Yeah.
I go to send her that. Yeah, I hang up. I go to send her the email. What do you think happens? Could not deliver to sender.
Oh, hell, FX records.
Bro, I killed her Gmail. Like, just killed her Gmail because the DNS was like no longer pointing to like, and it knocked her Gmail out completely. And this is like world ending for her, right? And it was at this moment, like, there's the thing, like, the coolest thing about being in the customer onboarding or the implementation role, as it was called back then, is that you screwed up so hard so many times and had to fix things really quickly. It forced you to learn a lot of things really, really fast, right? Which was like super cool. And like, that is where I learned how to connect a Gmail and like how to, set up the MX records and like all this kind of stuff, right? But I torched her and I had no way to get in touch with her, right? I had because I emailed her. It's like the emails are just bouncing. I'm like, she's probably wondering why her email doesn't work anymore, right? And I'm like, my heart exploded and I'm just sitting here. It's like 6 p.m. on like, I don't even know what time it was. And I'm like, I just killed this woman's email and it's not like I can email her a WebEx link. I don't have a phone number to call her, right? Like, and dude, honestly, I don't even remember how I got back in touch with her. Like, I must have like reached out to like the sales rep and somehow found a number and just started calling it, or maybe like went to her website or something.
Stuart Pigeon,
I finally got her like a couple hours later. And I was like, Reagan, I killed your email. She's like, oh, that's why that's happening. I'm like, yeah, my fault. And like, so we went in and we got on I read out like a WebEx
Zoom link
or something like that to like go like get on this WebEx and share screens and like go and like fix this stuff. But dude, that was like one of my biggest like, oh shit moments, screw ups. But like, I learned all about like, that was kind of like where I first like realized like, oh, DNS like isn't always just controlled by like a DNS like provider. Sometimes websites have like funky little weird DNS services, right? Like Gmail, how do you actually hook that up to something and make it work and get a non-gmail.com in a Gmail inbox, right? Like, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, it was cool because while it was terrifying, and it was a big screw up, right? And it was completely on me because like, I didn't think to ask, right? Like that's another thing I learned. I learned to ask like about all these other things, right? I learned something from it, which was really cool. And I like, I had many of those moments, if you will, like throughout my time, like onboarding people and stuff like that. But yeah, that was like a one that really just stuck out and is like kind of like a funny story.
Man,
I don't know if you ever had any weird experiences like that as you were kind of learning the ropes on the HubSpot side.
Man, Max, so in our line of work, we're launching sites and dealing with DNS every single week almost. And there's not a week that goes by when there's not an issue. Somebody's giving us partial DNS access or all of it, and then we move some of it, not all of it. And there's all this little, sometimes as HubSpot's gone up market, we've had to deal with different people. So like IT's involved in that part, but marketing is involved in like the project. So all of a sudden at the end of at the final, it's like the final battle in the movie. Boom, a new character comes in. Thor drops into Wakanda. And all of a sudden now we've got to like, deal with this new IT person, how they figure out how they react and how we have to get the DNS from them. They have to learn who we are because there's trust issues with DNS because that's like the nuclear codes. So yeah, I know exactly what you're what you're saying. And I right when you said her email stopped working, okay, yeah, you got the MX record. You didn't get the MX
Yeah.
record over from wherever it was,
Yeah,
like
dude.
GoDaddy or whatever. And you took over the entire DNS zone file, not just the record of pointing, just a
Yeah.
website from here to there. So that's what you did. Oh,
Yeah, we
Max,
torched Gmail. Yeah.
that is a
It
Sistine
was
Chapel, sir.
brutal. It
That is a,
was. It was pretty nuts. But like I think I also there's a lot of mistakes also I think like in life, right? That I think I'm looking back on as an adult, and it's something that I kind of like realized growing up, not to get like turn this into like therapy or anything, but you had me thinking. Like my biggest mistake is like I gave up on so much shit that I wish I never gave
oh,
up on when
same.
I was a
Oh my
kid.
God. Yeah.
Right, dude?
Yeah.
Like there
Yeah.
were so
We
many
don't believe in
things that
ourselves
like
enough.
yeah, and there's so many things that like for example, like my mom encouraged me to do that um either I was like rebelling or felt like embarrassed that I did it that I wish I like stuck with. You know what I mean? Like my mom had me take like piano lessons when I was a kid, right? With this wonderful, nice, like family friend neighborhood lady down the street. And every single time I went, I was like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to play piano. Like, playing piano is stupid. Like, I don't
Sure.
like classical music. Pianos are dumb. But now looking back on it as an adult, bro, if I could play piano right now, are you kidding me?
Oh my
Like,
God.
I
Yeah.
would love that, dude. Like,
Oh
I
my
gave
God.
up on that. I gave up on playing guitar. Like, dude, if I could play acoustic guitar, are you kidding me? Like, that would be
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. And like, there's so many of these things that I just gave up on that looking back as an adult, I'm like, how do I prevent my kids from making those mistakes without also being like a pushy person? Right. And, I think I don't know what the answer is to that. Right. But there are just, man, so many things that like I wish I stuck with, even though at the time I hated them, that I would have just loved to have been good at today.
I don't think if you have those things, you're not an adult if you don't have those regrets of like, oh,
Yeah,
if I just stuck with that a
undergirds.
bit more, if I stuck with that, if I just listened to my parents on that thing or whatever. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, and I'm sure
yeah,
like as you got kids, I got kids, same things. Like, oh man, if you just believed in yourself on this thing, or you just did this one thing, 20 minutes a day for a year, two
yeah,
years, like the guitar or the piano, you could play any song you'd ever hear on the radio, and you could just be
yeah,
you could express yourself in a different way and
yeah,
just really just
yeah,
after a long day of work, you just kind of like go out there and just mellow out on it, whatever. I mean, like it's just
yeah.
stuff
And
that
again, I
you
don't
don't
want to
realize when
like
you're young.
I don't want to force my kids to do anything, but what I will tell them, I think, is like there are things that you might think are lame today that you are not going to think are lame are an adult and you're going to wish you would have done or stuck with. Take that how you will. Just think about it next time you want to quit something, right? My 5-year-old Eliza, she is a habitual thing quitter, right? Like she's quit swimming,
Habitual
she's
thing
quit
quitter.
dance, she's quit soccer, she's quit flag football, she's quit all these different things. She loves her Minecraft modding camp, and she'll keep going to that every single weekend. She's like a Minecraft kid, right?
All right.
Like super into it. It's the only thing she'll stay consistent with, right? But everything else, she'll just, she'll kind of quit after like 2 or 3 goes at it,
Yeah,
So
but
we'll kind of figure it out.
it's good that she's found her thing though. And then
Exactly.
these other things can be like supporting that main thing, right? So
Yeah.
even
Just embracing it. Love what you love.
yeah, feed that with other stuff though, right? I mean, like it's not just like it's not just the one thing. It's one thing, but
Yeah.
other things kind of build around it, right? And then you have this amazing, or sorry, amazing individual probably, but you have a
Yeah.
more amazing individual who just has like these different skills and things they can pull from one situation to help in another situation,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like you quit on things because you don't feel like you can learn them anymore, or you feel like you're just kind of like I don't have the patience or the desire. But when you get to look back, you're like, man, I wish I stuck with
Yeah.
that, or I stuck with it longer, or I didn't give up on it, all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
you didn't give up on onboarding. You didn't give up on HubSpot. You're still doing this
True.
stuff, right? You're still consistent with stuff. So
I'm
there's got to
still
be
there.
some
I'd
reason
like to be
behind it.
more consistent. I had someone at Inbound last year, this woman from England come up to me and she's like, I loved your old TikTok videos. They were so funny.
But you
I
quit
do
on
have
them.
to tell you, you've fallen off. And she told me I fell off, bro. She literally told me I fell off at the hotel restaurant, and I was like, "You're right. Like, you are totally right." Like, and then like that's it. Dude, I don't know what it is. Like, I stayed consistent for so long, and like, I don't know if like I don't know, some like weird stuff was happening on TikTok, and like it kind of changed from being like the trends to like turning into more of just like the new gig economy is doing like your own QVC infomercials, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
TikTok literally turned into. It turned into, the Uber of QVC. And it really, it sucks. It's like not at all what it used to be. And like, it stinks because like a lot of my content and my, the inspiration for the content that I was putting on LinkedIn all came from like the funny
TikTok,
shit I was
yeah.
seeing on TikTok, right? And I was like, I can think of a very relevant HubSpot version of that only people in the HubSpot community could think about. And I would make a video. No one would understand it on TikTok, but on LinkedIn it would kill, right? And like, I don't know if it's just like I got, maybe it was just like, I mean, it started during the pandemic, but like, I had another kid and I was like super overwhelmed, and like work was getting crazy, and just the vibe just in general was like really, really rough over there. And there was a point where I just kind of like, I don't know, I just kind of like lost my creative juice around it. And I kind of feel like I definitely like had this like very super consistent, always creating something. And like, I almost was like, I can't think of anything funnier now in the HubSpot world, because I kind of like did all of my things that I thought were funny and relevant. Right. And the one thing I know, and like my wife gets on me all the time about this. She's like, you need to go back to doing what you were doing before, because you're not, and I can see it and I can feel it. And like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not ready to have like a TikTok content strategy with you right now, Chris, like conversation with you, Chris. So like, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, that is one thing like I feel like I just need to do is like, sure, I've been consistently involved, and like, I still create content, albeit for like the cool stuff we're building at Hapily now. But like, it's definitely changed. I haven't been like doing a lot of like the same stuff that like I really, really, really enjoyed, right? Like the funnier short form stuff. And I need to find that again, big time,
You know what, Max? I can relate to that. Like I've got my alter egos. I've got Zark over here, as you know. I mean, so like
yeah.
sometimes Zark, but it's like you can write inspired or you can write uninspired, right? But you have to, after a while, to get the right inspired, right, you have to just write uninspired to start with, right? And then you just kind of maybe you start writing it slow, it sucks and it's not great, but then maybe over time, you start being consistent with it, and it'll come back. It's in there, right? You and I are both psychopaths of a different spectrum. So like,
Exactly.
I mean, but like, so it's in there, right? You just need something to kind of, bring it out. And usually it's a triggers too, but it's just there. It just kind of comes. Yeah. All right, there he is. Right, there's TikTok, Max.
And he's still there, right? And I think the workload for this new job is definitely way different than my workload for my last job at Hapily. Like that's the thing. Like, I mean, at HubSpot, like I loved being a solutions engineer, but to be totally honest with you, I was like sleeping through it. Like
you're coasting.
Calls were so easy. I was really coasting. I wasn't getting like pushed at all. You know what I mean? I kind of like, I knew everything I needed to know about the product. Like I was at a point where I wasn't even really getting on calls. I was just like coaching sales reps to just be able to handle them on their own. And like, they were fine. Right. Mm-hmm. Cause everyone's capable of talking about this stuff. You just got to like look at it at a different perspective and make it simple. Right.
100%.
And it was easy for me to spend a lot of time doing like my own creative stuff. Right. And really kind of spending a lot of time on TikTok and like doing like a lot of that, content. And again, back then, 2 years ago, TikTok was a very different place. But now at Hapily, it's like content is now my job. I'm also doing lots of like HubSpotter education. I am guiding the direction of like the event product that we have. I'm helping with like a lot of internal RevOps stuff. I'll do, a lot of sales support and things like that. Right. And so it's way more work than what I was used to. And like, I don't think it closes off a lot of the extra brain space I had to really do just like the creative stuff for me, which is like what a lot of that was, you know what I mean? And I need to learn how to change that. I need to learn how to figure out how to bring in like that creative TikTok stuff I want to do. And like, I also like, there's a piece of me that wants to like not make my entire personality on TikTok be completely tied to HubSpot. Right. Like,
Right.
so I do a lot of like, I go live and like game on there a lot every once in a while and stuff like that. But I can't like help but, put the little banner on there like, hey, ask me anything about like HubSpot, like while I'm gaming, like whatever, but and I want to, but like there's this little bit of this fear of just like, that was the thing that you were good at. So like, why switch it up and do something different? You know what I mean? And so, and then I just overanalyze it and do nothing. Right. So yeah, it's a little goofy, but
yeah, I mean, look, it's a different job. I mean, no, it sounds like, it sounds like what they say to, insane people's like you and I was like say, you guys got civilized, that kind of thing. Like if I talk to my friends, I talk to my buddies from previous lives, they say the same thing. Oh man, what happened to you? You got like really corporate and civilized and managing an inbox and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not 23-year-old. I had to. But like,
exactly.
Yeah, but it's in there. It's in there, right? Like, and I can see it. It's in you. So like, yeah, I think you just gotta like, figure out when and where and how to bring it out. Yeah, how to let it out sometimes.
We got sometimes that dog in us, that's for sure.
Yeah, you gotta put on the right kind of music or to read the right thing, take you to the same place, and let it rip, tatership, as they say, right? You just gotta go, just gotta go with it. I mean, you just gotta run with it. You don't like. You can't be this organized all the time.
Overthinking it. Yeah, I need to stop overthinking it because like I'm definitely there's stuff that I'll make sometimes and I'll be like, don't post that. Like just don't post that. Like, like I'm. It was one thing when it was like, oh, I work at HubSpot, and if I go a little bit too unhinged, I could like
legalities and whatever,
right? And even though like these guys here at Hapily, they're just like, oh, leash is off. Do whatever you want. Swear as much as you want. Go nuts. Right. There's a piece of me that's just like, yeah, but then I can kind of take it to an extreme sometimes. Like I should be careful with like all this freedom, and then again, I overthink it. I do nothing. Months go by, no content except for like the stuff I'm doing for Hapily. And, I find myself in these spirals where I'm like, what happened to me?
It's power and responsibility, the burden, the gift and the curse, right? I mean, just
True.
to be able to be animated and just to be kind of like a person who can, make people have fun and to kind of like disarm them with stuff that you say, but that at the same time, there's responsibility that look, if I say something, you got kids, if they're going to see that, if they go to school 10 years from now, what's going to happen? You start thinking about all these little if, else, ifs, all this kind of stuff. I mean, the condition statements, and boom, you just get you get stuck on a RevOps 500 podcast. That's what happens.
The other thing is like the other thing that I just like really struggled with, right, is that like it's the political climate has really made it, I think, difficult for me to just act like I normally did before, right? Like it's tough for me to see kind of like what's going on in the country and then to like go on LinkedIn and it's like, oh, we're still talking about email open rates. And it's like, oh, we're talking about email open rates while some really bad shit's happening. And it's like you go on LinkedIn and it's like, oh, if you want to go to the place where it just like, it feels like nothing's happening and everything's normal, go to LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
Everyone, and we're still out here just being like, wow, look at these really cool HubSpot updates. Don't look over there. Don't look over there, right? Like we're
don't look up.
Distracting ourselves. Yeah, exactly. Don't look up. Exactly, right? And so it's like there's also like a piece of me there where it's just like, there's a certain type of content I want to make now, and it's not HubSpot content, right? But I'm also just kind of like worried about what sort of implications that would have like on my career, and I've got kids and like, you know, all this other stuff. So I don't know. It's like it's a weird mind space to be in. You know, for someone who has a lot of empathy and wants to make content and also has to like support a family, and it's like, I don't know. It's strange, man. I don't want to go down that path. I know we were here to talk about fun RevOps stuff, so let's do that.
But you know, like this is interesting because like if this is kind of like the same thing that, you know, I struggle with too. Just like, you know, I mean, like, yeah, just the guy on the websites or in the social media is not the same person necessarily who is talking to you right now. It's just like, oh, whatever. I mean, like, this is the guy who, like, you know, freaking puts socks on his hands and, you know, just does whatever he feels like and says all sorts of, you know, funny things and whatever. But, you know, it's not easy to do that when you have people and dependents and of all kinds, you know, and just kind of like, you know, where does the gas go and where does the brakes come in, and navigating all that's always been very, very hard for me. Like I could write a bunch of stuff offline, no problem. You and I could talk for hours, but doing it on the internet, posting it online, it's like, oh, and now what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh, crap now. Now I gotta sit like this. I gotta take my collar up a little bit. I gotta I'm like, oh, hello, Max. How are you today? And you know, oh, what is the weather like? How's that local sports team? And like all this kind of stuff.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Yeah, wow. Can you believe what those people did on that thing over there? Oh my God! You know, like, it becomes like this kind of, you know, whatever nonsense that we all call work. We call this work, right? Oh, like you said, how about those HubSpot product updates? And oh, look at that! What that person did with that module? Oh, I don't like that contest. There's all this kind of stuff that's going on. Like, we live in a real fantasy land. These are definitely, you know, 1% of the 1%ers problems.
100%.
You know. Anyways, another news. Let's look at email open rates. I like that one. That was good. Nailed it.
It is really crazy, like how we can just like honestly, you know, get on LinkedIn and just completely dissociate from everything. But you know, we all got to work, I guess, and like that's the one thing we can control, so we just do it, right? And so just go in there and mark those emails as read and just read as many as you can and respond to as many @mentions as you possibly can in the day and call it a day. Go home and, you know, just become your real self again afterwards. Anyway. That's so HubSpot.
Strange. So anyways, in other news, how about those HubSpot product updates?
Dude? Oh my God.
Are you? I mean, do you see yourself like? I mean, do you use HubSpot like on a minute by minute basis at Hapily, or is it like something you go
live in it?
You live in it all day long. Still, you're still in it all day.
I live in it so hard that there's always an open tab somewhere. I can't even imagine how many portals I'm in at this point. My two-factor authentication constantly gets screwed up because like I'm having this like weird issue right now where like I have my old phone and I got my new phone, but when I try to get the two-factor authentication to work on my new one, it says, oh, to reset this, go talk to these random people in this other portal. And it's like another portal my user's in. And I'm like, why is my two-factor set to that? And then like I had them get rid of it. And then it just jumped to another random portal. And I'm like, why is my and I'm like, oh, because you're in a billion portals because all you ever do is like do HubSpot stuff for people and, you know, for Hapily and everything. It's all I ever live in. But yeah, it's you know, it's crazy. I spend like a lot of my time these days like built like an obsessive. Well, one, I'm constantly building content in HubSpot. So like I'm looking at the HubSpot screen, building stuff to demo, recording a demo video. And then it's like, my sales rep hits me up and be like, hey, can you adjust this thing in the demo portal? Oh, we need a new demo portal. Oh, we need to figure out how to do, you know, this thing for a customer. Cause like event management stuff is like wildly complex and everyone does like different stuff. And we can talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I spend probably every waking hour of every day between, you know, 10 and 5, like in HubSpot in one way, shape, or form. And I barely spend any time out of it. Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And so it's, I mean, it's good. I love it. Like it hasn't gotten boring yet. Right. You know, and I think it'll like be, it'll be that way, hopefully forever. Right. I mean, I hope it does. I'm about to get a tattoo at Inbound with a HubSpot logo because I made a really stupid bet that I lost. So yeah, we'll hope I keep loving it. You know what I mean? Go forward. But yeah, I spend a lot of time in it.
And so, like, now let's talk about Event Happily a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got this product. I mean, we all know doing events in HubSpot is always been a mixed bag. I mean, we've done Inbound for about 10 years. We've
A
always done
mixed
a different.
bag is so generous.
Yeah, I mean, hey, like I said, you gotta be a bit more vanilla than cookies and cream out here on the RevOps 500 podcast, right? So I mean,
Sure.
we gotta sell our soul at some point or other, sadly. But
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
so like
100%.
like I mean, like look, we've done Inbound at Computent for 10 years. We've always had our stuff done in a different way.
Yeah.
What don't we know? What should we do? What is like what is like
Okay.
what does Event Happily do that all the other people in the graveyard that have tried to get this right couldn't do?
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Right. So first, like fundamental truth, right, is that marketers want to run their events on HubSpot. And so the question is why? Why would you want to run your events on HubSpot? Well, they're typically promoting their events on HubSpot. They're using their events as marketing, right? So like it has this already deep tie-in to stuff you do in the marketing hub, right? People fill out forms to register for events. That's a big thing you do in HubSpot's marketing hub. You send emails to promote your events, right? If someone signs up for an event, you want to send them an email saying you've signed up for the event, right?
Congrats.
And so like there's a lot of these things that HubSpot does that marketers go, oh, I can just use HubSpot for that registration page or, for that, promotion of the event or whatever it may be, right? But also like events is like a key part of people's marketing strategy, right? So just inherently like who the end users of, kind of classic HubSpot marketing are the same people that are like producing these events or even going to these events, like the trade show, like example, things like that, right? But then what's also interesting is that events, especially when you do them from like a business perspective, right? What's happening to all those people that like attend those events or like you meet at those trade shows? Well, they're talking to sales. Who else is using HubSpot? The salespeople, right? Like, and like they're doing their work inside of there. And like, marketing, just like they want to see like, hey, if I did this ad, it ended up getting this person to buy something. You better bet your ass when they're like pouring out blood, sweat, and tears to go put on an event that they want to know, like, was all this effort and money and time that we put into this thing, did it actually lead to a sale, or like did it affect the bottom line, or like can we draw a somewhat reasonable line to that, right? Just like we do with any all our marketing attribution is fake, we made it up. Same thing goes for like event stuff, right? They want to be able to say our event did that or it had a piece in like leading to that sale, right? And then the other thing too is just like your event strategy and the events that you put on are also just like one of the best ways for you to engage with your customers and keep them happy and get feedback from them and keep them involved in your communities that you build and things like that. And like how you take care of folks and like all that directly aligns with what customer service is doing and the service hub and all that stuff. And so it's so interesting because events touch every single part of all of the big things you do in HubSpot, that there is this natural desire to run the event from HubSpot. The problem is HubSpot's not an event management platform. It's a CRM system, right?
Of course.
And the unfortunate truth is all the stuff you do in a CRM system is super tied to everything that you do with events, right? Now, here's the other problem. All the event point solution stuff out there, your Eventbrites, your Cvents, your this, your that, the other thing, right? All the tools that are made to register for events, they're really good at doing like the stuff that's very nuanced about like events, right? Registration, attendance tracking, right? Things like that. But they're really bad at all the stuff that HubSpot's really good at,
Yeah, the
right?
operation
You
stuff, the
know,
back end stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like email marketing tools inside of an Eventbrite are always going to be like 1% of what like a HubSpot marketing, email tool is going to be, things like that, right? And so what ends up happening is people are like forced to have these like disparate systems and deal with like a lot of importing and exporting and disconnected and unsynced data and like all this kind of stuff. And what makes it even worse is that a lot of these like event solutions, they have integrations with HubSpot, right?
Right.
Which 10% or 90% of the time means, oh, we integrate with Zapier, right? And so like that's the best part, is like everyone who says that they have an integration with HubSpot means they have an integration with Zapier.
Zapier to do webhooks. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly, right? But there are a lot of these tools that have direct integrations with HubSpot. The problem is, right, most of those quote unquote integrations, right, just simply dump data into contact properties, and then they check the box saying, yep, we got an integration, right? And the problem with that is like companies that do events typically do a lot of events throughout the year. And a lot of the times with those events, people come to those events more than once, right? And what really stinks about an integration like that, if you're just updating contact property information, that means every single time someone goes to another event or registers for another event or attends another event, all that data is getting overwritten every single time, which makes doing things like seeing a history of someone's events that they've gone to, or, being able to automate stuff around it or segment off of it, or like do any of the things you want to do in HubSpot, report off of it. Really, really tough when you've got contact data getting overwritten, right? Now, HubSpot attempted to solve this with the marketing events tool. We all know how that's gone.
Yeah.
Not super great, yeah. Right? I love the effort, 100%. Love the effort. The problem is everyone does event management differently, and too often does that very, basic marketing events tool functionality really fall short because it's not a first-class object. It doesn't have all the same bells and whistles as like a custom object does, right? So it's harder to do your reporting the way you want to do it, the automation the way you want to do it. It just ended up being able to be used as data inside of the custom report builder, right? Which is crazy, right? And it's tough because you can't really lean into HubSpot's infinite level of customization when you use that object because it's so set in stone. And it was really just designed to be like a place for webinar platforms to dump data, right? And so what ends up happening is like, because of that, and because of like a lot of the ways that HubSpot is set up, and it's brilliant in the way that it's set up, it's not conducive to event management. I'll give you one of the best examples here. Okay. Have you ever had someone who set up like a HubSpot form and they maybe came to you because they set up a form for like an event, and then they go, oh, hey, we set up this form for this like webinar that we're doing, or this like a lunch and learn that we're doing, or this in-house event, or like whatever. And, someone signed up all their colleagues, and all it did was overwrite their contact property 6 times.
Oh, yeah.
Or their contact records 6 times, right?
Yeah, it's happened.
And so like that's one of like the awkward things, is that like those forms aren't meant to be registration forms, right? There's nuances around the way event registration uses forms that directly clash with the way HubSpot thinks about forms, right? HubSpot has that brilliant way where forms operate, where it's like, oh, if you fill out the same form with a different email address, you must be updating your email address, right? If you use the same email address on a different computer, you must be the same person, right? And it's real. The natural way it works makes a ton of sense for lead capture. Fundamentally breaks when it comes to event registration, right? Because people want to do other stuff. Like when people register for events, they want to be able to register their friends as well, right? And so you get into this really awkward place where like the tools have these nuances to them that like don't really make sense for event management stuff. And that's where you see a lot of people getting like really frustrated, because the integrations are typically pretty bad, and HubSpot's native tools that kind of look like the tool set you need to do event management just aren't really there. And the data structure is also not really there either, right? They have that event object, which is good, a good starting place. Like you need a representation of the event itself. But where a lot of them fall short is that they don't realize that they need an object to represent an instance of somebody going to an event, right? So like with Event Hapily, one of the biggest like things that we do a lot, right? But one of the very first things we do when you install it is that you have an event object to represent your events, and you have a registrant object to represent an instance of someone registering for an event, right? And that's important because remember, in the old model with like an Eventbrite or something like that, all the information about that person registering for an event goes to a contact property, which then gets overwritten later. Our registrant object is meant to memorialize the information about that time Max signed up for this event, right? And it's great because it holds a ton of data. It can hold, what did he say his t-shirt size was? What did he say his dietary restrictions were? What was his badge number for the event? What was the level of ticket that they got? What was the, did they actually attend the event? Did they not? Did they cancel? Did they whatever, right? And then that thing lives forever and it stays as its own entity, which all of the sudden makes HubSpot reporting 10 times easier. Right? Because you have a proper representation of the data and how it's all associated. Whereas with the marketing events object, that registrant data was hidden in the background. Not even it's an object, but it's hidden in the background.
Closet basement. And it's not there.
Inaccessible. And they just got around to like kind of exposing it. Right. But even then, you can't use that data in any meaningful way. Right. So the first thing we do is like we inject a data structure that makes sense. We also give people ways to track like individual sessions at larger events if you have more complex events, and speakers and sponsors and all that kind of fun stuff, right? But the real kind of like juice, I think, that we kind of like inject in past like a smart data structure is like a really good logic to kind of handle the nuances around managing what registrations actually are, right? When someone signs up for an event and it creates that registrant object, we have a lot of logic in the background that can like, also sign them up for sessions, this, that, and the other thing, but also manage duplicates really effectively. If someone registers for an event that they're already registered for, don't make another registrant, just they're already registered. They're good, right?
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
If they cancel, how does it get canceled? How does that get marked? How do you track it? Like all that kind of stuff. So like we do a really, really good job at kind of managing what's really difficult and nuanced to kind of figure out. You can't just like build a workflow to do this. Like you need a very sophisticated, way of like looking at contact IDs and registrant IDs and matching that with the right association labels. And like, there's the nuances of when you add them, when you remove them, what they mean, all this different kind of stuff. Right. And what we're trying to do is basically build in all of like the guts that HubSpot's missing to handle the really, really hard parts about event registration, attendance tracking, right? Because that's the second part. Like people register for the event and then they attend, and then after is like the revenue attribution and stuff like that, right? And so what was cool is like when we first built this, right? Like a way to register, a way to track attendance, all this kind of stuff. And we packaged it up together and we put it out there and we started shopping it around mostly to partners. Cause like when I joined, my job was like talking to partners and like doing this whole thing. And what was like really interesting about it is like when we went out, and I probably had like 100 of these conversations with people, like showing them Event Hapily, being all proud about it. 75% of the conversations went something like this. They go, oh, cool. Like this is neat. This is great for people who are like hosting and producing their own events and stuff like that. But a ton of our customers don't actually like host their own events. They go to
the events,
trade shows and conferences, right? Yeah. And it's funny because that's a fundamentally like different motion, right? There's,
of course,
I'm hosting and putting on an event where it's like, I need a way for people to register for it. I need to track their attendance that they actually showed up to it. But then the trade show thing is like, we don't know who's going to be there, right? They're not signing up for our event. we're going to this event, and there's other people there that we're going to meet that we want to sell stuff to, right? And so like it birthed this whole other side of the tool that we just call like event lead capture, right? Which there are a bunch of other tools that do it, but again, their integration with HubSpot's pretty bad.
That's right, it's not there.
They write stuff to a contact record and go, done, right? Which again gets overwritten, or you deal with some like really, really terrible, like long strings of properties that have names of trade shows with commas, separated values, or like multi-select fields, which are a nightmare, right? And it's just not good. And so like we ended up building this whole other side of the platform where if you're a company that does like the attended event thing, right? Instead of creating registrants, we do what are called like event leads, which is just a simple association between contacts, event objects, with a special label that says event lead, right? And then the big thing I kept hearing over and over again is like, oh, this company has all these deals and they want to see if any of them came from these trade shows, right? They wanted to do like attribution, right? And like, that's a really tough thing to do because not only do they want to do attribution, everyone's got a different model. Everyone wants to, it's like, oh, most recent event they went to, the first event they ever went to,
first touch, last touch,
they went to within the past year, the first event that we captured them as a lead, all events in the past year would be eligible, right? And so what we did is we built a really cool like deal workflow action, right? That basically says when a deal goes into this workflow action, go and look at every single event that person's gone to. And we could do that because we have these really great association labels back to these event objects. We have all the data, all the history. We've got the register object. We have everything they need to figure out every event they registered for, every event they actually attended, right? Because we have this cool attendance tracking stuff. And then any event that they were captured as a lead, when the event happened, when it took place, all that kind of stuff. So it looks at contacts on the deal or contacts associated to the company that are on the deal, right? We analyze all that history, and then we actually just create these associations from the deal back to the event.
Back to the event.
So
wow.
The cool thing now
that's awesome
is that marketers can create their event. They can get people to register for it. They can track the attendance when they're there, or they can create their event, use the record to like plan the event and like all this kind of stuff. And then go and capture leads at the event. If it's like a trade show or conference, right? All that stuff is automatically tied to the event record. So they can easily see how many registrations, how many people attended, how many event leads do we get, whatever it may be. Right. We've even seen people do some really cool things that like, since it's HubSpot, you can kind of extend it in your own ways. For example, we have people take event records that they're using to like plan the event and create like another object called expenses, right? And start logging expenses to the event so they can start to get an idea of how much of the investment is in this event because they want
the ROI on it.
They talk about event ROI a lot, right? So like we'll see, it's like, oh, you spent $10,000 on a DJ, 30 grand on balloons, $100 on food, whatever it may be, right? And you invested a whole bunch into this event, and then all of a sudden your deals start to just magically get associated to the event, right? Because your sales reps are just selling to these people. You're not chasing down the sales reps being like, hey, if you talk to anyone and they mentioned that they were at this event, could you like somehow tag the deal so we know they came from this event? Like, it's, we don't want to chase down sales people. You just want them to focus on selling, right? And so what's cool is like your event ROI literally calculates itself automatically over time just by creating a couple of simple like calculation fields. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah.
What's funny about like all of this is the more and more we build and the more and more we experiment, I have completely put myself in the camp of it is better to manage your events in your CRM, specifically HubSpot. And you could probably figure out a good way to do this in Salesforce too, I'd say. Right. But it makes so much sense to do your events in HubSpot or do your events in HubSpot versus another event management platform, just because like as long as you solve for the really, really tough shit that it's bad at, you can extend it infinitely in all these different ways. And that makes sense because everyone does event management differently. Right. And you can it's right next to your data. Chris Carolyn, the guy who does like the
Yeah,
Let's
profoundly.
Unbox
Yeah, of course.
HubSpot and
Yeah.
profoundly, all that kind of stuff. He said one of the best things ever because he was one of the earlier dudes that I like were having these conversations around, you know, people that go to trade shows and people that he's like, well, when we were all figuring this out, he said, imagine how much easier it is to calculate ROI when the R and the I live in the same place. Right?
So true.
And that's
something
like
you would
so
say
interesting.
too.
Yeah, because your R always lives in HubSpot, right? It's your deals, it's your revenue. Like that data is there. The problem is the investment does not live in there. It lives in some spreadsheet somewhere where you're like planning your events. And like the most ironic thing of all time is that there's still so many folks out there that liberated their marketing teams, their sales teams, and their service teams from the spreadsheet and got them onto HubSpot. But when you go talk to their event teams, where are they still living?
Spreadsheets.
The fucking spreadsheet, dude.
That's right.
They're in there. And what's crazy is if you think about even something as simple as event planning, what are you doing when you're planning your event? You're emailing a bunch of people and coordinating a bunch of stuff and holding a bunch of information.
That's right.
What are you doing when you're selling? The same damn
thing. Yeah.
You're sending emails back and forth. You're tracking information. You're keeping track of conversations. You're tracking a process. Dude, there's a process leading on up to going to a trade show. There's a process leading up to hosting an event, right? Dude, an event record or a HubSpot record, a custom object record, whatever it is, has everything you need to do that a million times better than a spreadsheet does. And it just happens to be connected to all the data you want it to be, right? That's already living in there, you know? And so we hit this realization after a while. It's like, dude, it makes so much sense to manage your events in your CRM versus siloing it in some other piece of software that's going to be like good at the registration part, but terrible at everything else you wish it was good at, right? And so what we're trying to do is, again, just build all of that stuff into HubSpot. So the shortcomings it has from the event management side, which is like not a narrative on like, oh, HubSpot sucks because it can't do event stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It wasn't built to do it because it's not an event tool.
That's right.
Right? And we're just trying to make it one because it could be the best ever. Right. And that's the battle we're fighting today, man. It's I never thought I'd be interested in event management ever, but it's turned out to be one of the funnest problems to try to solve that everybody has in the HubSpot world. I haven't met a single marketer that was like, oh, it's really easy to manage our events in HubSpot. Super easy. Right? They all have the same exact problems, right? And again, it's just because HubSpot wasn't built for it, and that's fine. True. It wasn't supposed to be, right? But it could be. And we're building it, dude. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool, just from like what I've seen of it. And I think anybody listening here, should go out and check out Max on LinkedIn, check out Hapily online, check out Event Hapily, see what they're doing. They'll be at Inbound again. Just stop by. Max will be there. He'll be talking to some sock puppets again, probably.
Hell yeah,
we'll see. And Max, I've really enjoyed talking to you, learning a bit about your mistakes, learning a lot about Event Hapily, obviously, and I just appreciate you coming on and jamming with me today.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I can't wait to be on for another one. I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about. So
yeah,
maybe we'll do a sit down. Maybe we'll rent the room and do a sit down with one of the puppets or something at Inbound. That'd be fun.
I'm game for it. I'm game for it. We'll do that.
So
All right, guys. It's been another episode of Red Ops 500. Thanks a lot for coming in.